morning, Tampa Bay. What is going on? Channelside in the morning, live on the Channelside Sports Network. I am Danny. Thank you for tuning in and starting your day off with us. I mean, there's no real better way. Talking sports. I'd like to think we're entertaining. Maybe we are. Maybe we aren't to you. Who knows? Anyways, there's not a whole lot of news to talk about when it comes to any of our sports right now. Obviously Monday Night Raw was at Amalie Arena last night. Their first TV 14 show since I think 2002. It's a long time. That TV PG era lasted a very long time. Put out some good product. I mean, we can't lie. It did put out some good product. Juan Soto, of course, soon to be formerly of the Washington Nationals and most likely not of the Tampa Bay Rays, won the home run derby last night. Evan and I are going to talk all about that. Some of the fireworks. Albert Pujols, of course, winning in the first round, jacking 20. Madden rankings are coming out. This is what I'm excited for. I'm very excited for the Madden rankings. Madden rankings coming out right now. It starts with the wide receivers, and I love watching wide receivers take it serious. I love when I love when basketball players take their 2K rating serious, because to me that's fun. I'm a video gamer at heart. I love video gaming. So when you've got, Jamar Chase kind of being snubbed in the top 10 of the Madden 23 ratings, and he comments on it, I like it. And then of course, you've got the GOAT coming back and letting Jamar Chase know that, hey, I wasn't even in the first game of my career. He was literally, and I've got the graphic of that as well. He was literally listed as QB 12. Man, it's just, I can't wait for Evan to come on so we could talk about, all things video games, everything that we've enjoyed, over the years, especially with this commemorative edition of Madden coming out. I think for me, that's kind of the icing on the cake, which is also part of the reason why I strongly believe that they put Jordan's jersey on the cover of the new 2K that's coming out, the championship edition. That's strongly why I believe that, because for the longest time, Michael Jordan wasn't even around in video games. Like, you just could not play him in video games. Now he's readily available. They had the 96, 97 Bulls team on there, the 72 and 10 team. But, there's this one really hits home. Having John Madden on the cover and having one of the editions that has the original cover of Madden football on there, with John kind of busting through the wall there with the green background. And, for me, that's not the John Madden that I remembered, because that was a little bit before my time. A little bit. I'm definitely interested in seeing your guys' thoughts and your guys' reactions to the game when it comes out, because they say it's going to change every year, and it doesn't necessarily change. However, being that it is supposedly it's going to change quite drastically. They revamped the GM mode. They're bringing all of these modes back for the new version of Madden, and it's going to be fantastic. And I just think that Channelside Sports, we might run a giveaway, whatever console you need, whether it's PS4, 5, Xbox One, Series SX, Nintendo Switch, whatever. We may run a giveaway. I may have just spoiled it. I may have given you a little heads up, but we might run a giveaway. It's going to be exclusive to our Twitter. No matter what console you are wanting Madden for, follow us. We're gonna obviously the like, follow, retweet train, and we're gonna pick a winner. We will pick a winner. Whoever's the lucky winner will win a copy of the new Madden 23. I made the executive decision. I'm doing it. I'm no longer thinking about it, Evan. We're just gonna go straight for it.
Can I share my thoughts about Madden?
Please.
It's a terrible game. It's the same game
Evan Bush, everybody coming on, just killing vibes almost every morning.
No, listen. That's just my opinion. All thoughts and views on this show are not reflective of my own. But I know there's Madden enthusiasts, and I know Madden is a wildly popular game. But each and every year, there's no improvements on the game. Look at MLB The Show, one of the
Right.
best sports games out there right now. Every single year, there's improvements on the game. Madden, not so much. Like, that's what I think it's maybe my hatred towards the gaming company that puts that out, EA, because EA is almost like how do I say this? EA is almost like Enron.
Hey, can I tell you something that I read about EA?
And good morning, everybody.
Good morning, Evan.
Good morning.
Before and what excites me about Madden though is that that John Madden's back on the cover, and I know obviously it's commemorative, and I enjoy that. I really do, because that brings me back to when I was growing up, because that was up until Eddie George was the first cover athlete in 2001 from 92 to 2000. It was just John Madden. So that
was all John Madden on the cover.
I
didn't think about this.
Before we get into that, I think the best sports game is NHL 17. Think about how long ago that came out.
I will counter that. I will see that game and I will raise you. And before I get into my raise you game, think about this year too. Since he is on the cover, there will be no Madden curse this year.
Unless, never mind.
Oh no! Please go into the conspiracy theory. Please.
Oh no! I was going to say, he's on the cover.
Well, he's dead.
Correct. That could essentially there's some asshole out there going, "See, the Madden curse is still going."
So you're saying the ghost of John Madden could affect one random player this year?
It very well could. Okay. You know what I hope is in this game is I really hope that they have like clips and cuts from the old games.
See, that would be awesome.
Like where John Madden would come up pixelated like he would in like Sega and Super Nintendo. Like that me
would be cool.
Yeah, like I'm so for that. And if I'm being honest, I haven't bought a Madden in a couple of years. Yeah, there was a time where every single year I would buy it. But I realized, like my video game tendency is kind of like I don't have to get a video game anymore. Do I want to get Madden every year? Sure. But let's be realistic. Like that $60 could probably go elsewhere.
Well, also too, if you have Xbox Game Pass or PlayStation Plus, whatever PlayStation has, is you can get the game for free whenever it comes on the day one release now. So
yeah, with the new upgrades. Yeah. So unless we're gonna give it to you for free as well. So
here's two though. If they had a mode in the new Madden where you could play the original Madden game, but with like the specs of like the newer consoles, like the 8-bit type of Madden.
Mm-hmm. That would be here. Cool too. Let's pull this up here, because now that you're here, because you and I grew up in the same era. Mm-hmm. So here's every Madden cover ever outside of obviously this year's. When you look at what is the first one that stands out to you? And for all of the people that are watching on Twitter right now, what is the first Madden cover that stands out to you as far as like oh, that was my game, I remember it?
See, I remember number one.
Okay.
So, and then, but after that, the one that really kind of sticks out to me the most is when Michael Vick was on the cover and then Sean Alexander.
Okay.
So, because there was a time where I played more. See, when you said the best sports game, I think RBI Baseball is like the best sports game.
From Nintendo, huh?
From Nintendo, yeah.
I mean, that was a good game. I'm not going to lie.
Great game. We're the guys who were they had the huge fat round heads and the huge fat round bodies, and they didn't even look like baseball players to begin with.
I think for me, Madden 94 was the first game that I truly remember like spending hours upon hours playing. I thought it was 93, but looking at the cover of 93, I'm like, that doesn't really that one doesn't really resonate with me. And I was also in 93, I had just turned 7 when Madden came out. So
I think this is such a generational game, and it's such a culture wide game where you have multiple tournaments per year and big money tournaments too. I mean, they have guys that win
huge money,
6 to 7 figures on these tournaments that come up. It's just this game. I'm hoping that EA will stop being such a greedy corporation and really tighten up the game and make the game even better. Because now when you have College Game Day coming out, the college football game, that was a game that almost surpassed Madden in the past because of the quality of it too.
I
You know what I noticed too, Danny, is when Antonio Brown is on the cover. Do you think that might be the moment where Antonio Brown became crazy? Him being on
Madden
the
curse.
Madden curse.
There it is. That's the Madden curse right there. That was his Madden curse because he didn't get injured that year.
No, that wasn't that the year he like kind of sat out and
Yeah,
it became like a problem.
that was when he became. That was his curse.
Yeah, that's the curse.
He got the brain curse. That's the worst curse of all. Jesus. So obviously,
the brain curse.
so obviously we're talking about Madden a lot today, and we're gonna talk about baseball. We're gonna talk about obviously Shane McClanahan had the most epic first half of the season in MLB history for a pitcher. We're gonna talk about that, but I figured we would flip it a little bit because we always talk about Rays baseball first, and I figured what we'll start out, we'll have a little fun, we'll talk some video games, and then we'll flip it around. We'll end on a more serious note, like not of the Tampa Bay Rays, Juan Soto winning the home run derby last night. And we'll just talk about, how Shane McClanahan really is kind of in a league of his own this season. But the reason why we're talking about Madden is because yesterday is when the initial player ratings started dropping and wide receivers came out. And before you came on, Evan, and I want to hear your take on this.
Sure.
As a video game guy, I love when Madden ratings, when 2K ratings, when MLB ratings, when all of these games come out, and we can't say NHL because there's no NHL players on social media. But when all of these other games come out and players actually like comment on their ratings, because to me that ties two things that I'm very passionate about. That ties video games, and then that also ties sports together. And I love that. And I love when they take it serious as well.
Yeah, I agree with you upon that, especially when a player hits the 99 club, where they actually bring you, like, they'll have a representative from EA bring you just kind of like a box that has like the 99 club. It's almost like a plaque or like an award to the player. And the players really get excited about it. They almost become like kids in candy stores where, if they become a 99 ranked player, it's like, dude, that's something special to me. And I know some players that just get outright pissed when their ratings come out and it's not where they want to be, and they just go on a tirade on social media. It's like, that's a video game, right? It's not a reflection of really who you are as a player. But Madden has become such a integral part of the NFL where, if you're an NFL player and you have a rating that you don't agree with, you're going to be pissed about it because that NFL player grew up playing Madden and now he's in the game itself, and you get a rating that you don't think you should have gotten. And yeah, I would be rightfully pissed too as well. So yeah, it's really cool how that, the NFL players really kind of take that seriously too. And dude, I would love to be like the person that rates the players, because all these guys are just Joe Schmo off the street. They have an EA. I've seen pictures of them that were posted on Twitter. All they do is they wear an EA sports jacket, they go to training camps, and then they evaluate, and then they give their score, and that's that.
I mean, is that kind of not what PFF does?
Yeah.
And we love PFF. Don't get me wrong. Like, I'm not going to hate on them. I've got a lot of friends that work for Pro Football Focus. I don't want to talk crap about them, but I think that, with the way that Pro Football Focus has kind of like come on as like the place to evaluate players, because that's where a lot of people will get their arguments, they'll get their debates, and get their stats is from Pro Football Focus grades. No, NBC incorporates them in their Sunday Night Football montage. And before Pro Football Focus, the only way that you had to rate players was Madden rankings. That was really it. That was the only numerical value that was associated with the player. Like, to me, that's something that I never even really thought about up until.
I'm going to take Madden ratings over, no offense, PFF rating.
I think Pro Football Focus ranks too many things, and I think things get lost in the shuffle.
Too many variables when it comes to those things.
Honestly, I think that's the That's where it is for me. Is because Madden, you've got what? You've got your route running, your jumping, your catching. You've got like 12.
You got your speeding ability, your speed ability.
Yeah. So with the Madden rankings that came out yesterday, your top 10 wide receivers. Speaking of 99 Club, hello Devontae Adams.
You know what? I'm surprised about this. I'm surprised Cooper Kupp is not a 99 Club member.
Yeah, I don't understand how he's not 99 when he almost broke the NFL record.
Because of a season so like his season last year was so monumental. Like I'm really surprised. Like he didn't get pushed up in the I'm surprised that Devontae Adams is not number 2 and Cooper Kupp is not number 1. You know what I mean?
Especially, and I know that obviously you base it off of last season.
Well, if we're basing it off of last season, then DeAndre Hopkins shouldn't even be in this conversation. He shouldn't even be in the top 10.
I think that's just a respect. I don't know, because DeAndre Hopkins literally cost me my season last year.
I would push Justin Jefferson up a little bit.
Yeah, I would switch Justin Jefferson and DeAndre Hopkins for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And then I would even bump out Amari Cooper in the top 10.
Well, and so here's the thing: is Amari Cooper is in the top. He wasn't in the top 10 on the Cowboys, and now he's not. Now that he's on the Browns with Jacoby Brissett, he's in the top 10.
I think they might base that on, hey, we might have Deshaun Watson for, more than maybe 4 or 6 games. I don't know. I just, maybe that's what they're based on. But Amari Cooper to me hasn't been close to a 90 in a long time.
I think Amari Cooper became. So we talked about this a couple weeks ago, right?
Mm-hmm.
That CeeDee Lamb, I think, was a product of Amari Cooper. I think at the end of his time in Dallas, Amari Cooper became a product of CeeDee Lamb.
Yep.
How's that for a hot take on a Tuesday?
That's a hot take Tuesday right there. Eat your tacos with that hot take.
Terry McLaurin at 91.
Scary to see. I'm okay with that ranking because of who has been throwing to him. So, right. and it's not much. So I can. That's a number 8 spot that's well warranted on that one. Mike Evans, I wish would be bumped up a little bit. Diggs is right where he's at, but yeah, switch Hopkins and Jefferson. Tyreek is where he should be, but
you're the Tyreek finish.
See, that's going to be an interesting question this year. Was if he's going to be in the same spot as he is last year compared to this year, because there's so many unknowns. If Tua is going to be able to get him the ball, and if him and Waddle are either going to split receptions and everything too as well. So I mean, it's going to be interesting to see with these, especially with Devontae Adams. Even though he's on the Raiders now, and I think Derek Carr is a very underrated quarterback.
Totally agree.
So he's no Aaron Rodgers. We get that. He's not an Aaron Rodgers. But these two guys used to be college, teammates. So there is chemistry there. Yeah, I would flip-flop Adams and Kupp. I would go Kupp number 1 at 99. And then Adams at 2 with 98. I
want to know why Kupp got a 98.
Yeah, if I was Kupp, I'd be pissed. I'm surprised he's not tweeting out about that.
Right. Well, so who is tweeting out was Jamar Chase, and he said it's just extra motivation. I guess I need to improve.
Well, you know what? At least he takes it with a little bit of humor on it.
Right, right. And that's how you want it. You don't want somebody to be like Chris Sailing. You don't want them breaking stuff and tossing things around and having a completely and having a fest in the back. You don't want that, but you do want them to have because we know that these guys play the game. So they all have egos. So when the ratings drop and you're like, what?
There are a lot of people tweeting about Kupp not being number 1 and saying it's blasphemy.
I mean, I don't know about blasphemy, but I get the argument for it. Like you just said, there's
one guy even had to throw out the racism thing. Kupp not being number 1 is racist.
His white privilege kept him down.
Yeah.
Tom Brady. I love this. Tom Brady tweeted to Jamar Chase for the rating. Don't sweat it, man. Madden didn't even put me in my game my second year. He's listed as QB number 12.
I love Tom Brady being Tom Brady on social media now.
And then you know what's funny? Look at his awareness.
Real 10J.
41. Tom Brady had a 41 rating for
Wow.
awareness. Can we add that to this didn't
His
age
name
well?
was QB number 1-2. There you go.
Yeah, it doesn't even look like that's 12. That's one.
Yeah, it looks like QB number 1-2. Yeah, it doesn't even look like. Well, I mean, essentially, he is the number 1 QB.
Yeah, there you go.
So, I mean, that's technically kind of right.
How crazy is that? It even says no photo. Like they didn't even care enough. They were like, meh. And you know, and here's what's even more crazy. I don't even know the two guys listed above him.
I don't either. The only one that I know is Drew Bledsoe.
I always thought that he backed up Drew Bledsoe. Like
not his first year, because he was like number 3 or number 4 on the depth chart, and then all of a sudden he became the backup. I know his first year he was like the number 4 guy.
what was his second? Because this was his second year.
Oh, that's wild, man.
Didn't he take over this in the second year? Isn't that when Drew Bledsoe got injured?
I think, yeah, he did take over the second year. I think this is when, I mean, obviously this is before this came out this season, like before the season started.
Right.
So
57 rating for the GOAT.
I mean, look at that speed. 50.
Well, that was based off of his combine being so terrible 2 years prior. They're like, you know what, pal? We're gonna hang this over your head as long as possible. Oh, yeah, and then by the way, when social media comes out, because it wasn't out then, we're just gonna continue to retweet that picture of you at the combine.
Yeah, but then Tom Brady just holds up his hands with all the rings on his fingers. So
right,
you know,
how here's a spontaneous question. Because we've seen pictures of Tom Brady holding up the rings. We've seen pictures of Jordan doing it, and we've seen pictures of Bill Russell doing it where he's got both hands up and 2 rings on one finger because he's got 11. Which to you looks more impressive?
I would say if you had rings on your fingers and then put the 11th one on your toe.
Oh, so you're doing like a little toe jam and Earl kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean, that to me, I mean, that's more impressive. You have it on your toe.
What
or if you double stack one of the fingers with 2 rings.
Yeah, I think that's what he did. It was like the middle finger, which of course, I mean, it's the most versatile finger and it's the longest finger. So
right.
Which ring? I know we kind of talked about this before, but which ring do you think is we talked about most prestigious, right? We ran a poll as far as trophies, right? What's the most prestigious trophy? Whether Lord Stanley's Cup obviously ran away with it. Which championship do you think is harder to win? What do you think is the hardest? I think basketball might be the easiest. And that's not a slight, but I think it might be the easiest because just as well as I know, when there's only 5 guys on the floor that you're playing against, if you're a Michael Jordan or you're a LeBron James or Kobe Bryant, you can severely affect the outcome of that game.
I'm maybe this is biased to me, but I think the Commissioner's Trophy,
soccer,
yeah, the Commissioner's Trophy, I think is the hardest to win. And I say that because there's so many games in a major league season. You have 162 games, and then you have your wild card, you have your divisional series, then you have your league championship series, and then you have the World Series. I mean, not only are you playing 162, but you're almost playing close to 190 games.
True.
And then you got to figure in injuries with teams and players going on the IL and a whole bunch of other factors coming including. So I think the World Series trophy is the hardest. Now, you can throw in Lord Stanley's Cup as being a hard one to get to as well. But you have a team recently that just won back-to-back. So, I mean, is it really that hard? No.
Just go ahead. Send your hate tweets to
right. But you could also put in the Lombardi Trophy in there too as well, because we haven't had back-to-back champions in a long time.
Right.
So, man, that's a tough one to call. Which one the hardest is? I'm in my mind. I think the World Series trophy is the hardest to get, just
I think
because
I think you're right.
just because of the long season, and there's so many factors that can you know screw up a championship run.
Right.
Maybe managers pulling pitchers too early, weather, lots of things that could happen. Calls being not made, foul balls, being interfered by. Like we've seen so many World series being affected by just the weirdest things that it could be, many factors that could screw up a championship. But I think
World
since it's a long long season, you have to really, endure a lot of what you're going to be doing to mold a championship team. I think it is. I think because just the season just is such a marathon. It's hard. You know what
I
I
agree.
mean?
I think I think you're right because you're also going up against teams where there's no salary cap.
Right.
And I know we like to harp on the Rays not spending money, and that's a completely separate conversation, in my opinion. But you're playing against these teams like the Yankees, who are in the sweepstakes for Juan Soto now, and probably one of the top 2, top 3 favorite teams to land him when they don't need him, but they can afford to get him. And even those teams aren't winning the World Series. Like I think that to me is what makes it so much more difficult to win the World Series trophy, is because you've got all of these teams that are spending boatloads of money. And when was the last time the Yankees won?
2009.
That wasn't a quiz. That was I think it's around that one. I think it's around there.
Was that a rhetorical question?
Yes, because they spent so much money for such a long time, and they're always at the top of the league in terms of payroll. And that just goes to show you how hard the World Series trophy is to win.
And I look at the Braves last year. The Braves were a sub 500 team last year.
Yep.
Nobody really considered them even a playoff team, and then all of a sudden they caught fire at the right time and they won a championship.
Yes.
And you're right. I mean, you can spend all the money in the world to buy a championship team, but are you really going to win it in the end?
I mean, history would say probably not.
Probably not. So yeah, I'm putting my money on the World Series trophy is the hardest one to get.
I think you're right. Coming into it, I was thinking maybe the NFL trophy. I was the Lombardi Trophy, winning the Super Bowl might have been the hardest.
I would put that as second.
Yeah,
I would put that as second.
I'm okay with that. I can live with that.
Okay, I hope so for your sake.
Well, yeah, like I said, I immediately rule out the Larry O'Brien Trophy. I don't think that's that difficult to win, which I know I'm going to get a lot of hate for.
That's fine. Does anybody really care about it?
I mean, not anymore. I honestly look. I don't know. I don't know when exactly it fell off, but I know that it did fall off. Does that make sense?
No, it does. It makes perfect sense.
I don't. Maybe the last time the Heat won it was the last time it was really like truly meaningful. But even then, I mean, like there was a super team, dude. There was
that the LeBron team.
Yeah,
with LeBron and D Wade,
LeBron, Wade, Bosh. Yeah, I mean that was insane. But I don't know, that might have been the last one. Home run derby trophy, I think is good though. I like that.
That's a.
Did you watch? You obviously. What did you think of the home run derby?
I watched it last night.
We'll bounce right into that.
I watched the first. I watched it all the way up until the semis, because of fatherly duties. Of course, you have to put your children to bed.
I just chloroform them.
They do. Okay, that's another way.
They sleep through the entire night. It's great.
But yeah, I thought it was a really good home run derby last night. It was very enjoyable. I mean, it wasn't one of the snoozers like there have been before.
Mm-hmm.
Julio Rodriguez,
32 and
welcome to the show there, buddy.
Holy crap.
Put on a show last night, dethroning, bouncing out Pete Alonso in the semifinals by putting up like 32 home runs in that round. but then ultimately Juan Soto beat him in the finals. A little controversy too, where they miscounted Albert Pujols' home runs, where he won, but technically he didn't. Kyle Schwarber should have won, but whatever. But yeah, it was enjoyable. I loved it last night. I think Major League Baseball does a great job by really putting on this spectacle of the home run derby. I love the entrances last night. They had that kind of like door that just brought him out with the steam and everything. That was cool.
Yep.
Especially if you're going to do it in LA, you have to put on some sort of spectacle last night. But yeah, it was great. I loved every minute of it.
They spared no expense, as John Hammond would say. But I think that, and I know that baseball is obviously an extremely long season, so it does make it difficult, right? To make it visually appealing every time. But you really need to make the All-Star, make it feel special. You do a great job at making the All-Star game, or I'm sorry, the home run derby. You do a great job at making that look and feel like it is a special commodity. However, when you get to the All-Star game, and I know this is a problem in all sports, when you get to the All-Star game, nobody really cares about the All-Star game. It's cool to see Shane McClanahan getting the start for the AL. Like, that's cool. But when you talk about like the visual presentation, I think last night was indicative of what baseball needs to do, because baseball in terms of popularity has it's not even it has definitely fallen in popularity.
Right.
And if you're not going to shorten the season, how do you feel about if they shorten the season? Because you are much more intertwined with baseball than I am.
I wouldn't. I mean, I'd be okay with it. Because I look about. Remember when we had the shortened season for when COVID hit it?
Mm-hmm.
It was like
it was 60 games exactly.
Yeah, almost 60, 80 games for that season, and it actually wasn't that bad. I mean, it was kind of like a brisk season. I mean, I wouldn't be mad if they cut it short. I think a lot of players would maybe like it as well because, like I said before, the Major League Baseball is a marathon. It's not a sprint. It's just marathon.
Right.
So if you shorten it down to like at least 80 games, I think maybe the attention of a lot of people will maybe kick back in there, because baseball is such a long season, and then of course you have other leagues that pop up during that season too as well. I mean when baseball starts, you still have the NBA finals, you still have the NHL finals and playoffs, and then when that goes away, you have the summer months where it's just nothing but baseball, and there's not a lot of baseball fans out there, so people are cramming to wait till football starts again.
Right.
Going back to last night, my wife was watching it with me. She's like, this is a home run derby. I'm like, yeah, this is the home run derby. This is kind of like this is the All-Star break for Major League Baseball before, the second half of the season. And I told her, like, this is the best part of the All-Star break. The game is usually a crap. Game is not usually exciting at all. It's kind of a slow game. It's nothing really exciting.
Like Pro Bowl.
Right. And I told her this is like the best part, the home run derby and probably the celebrity softball game. That's pretty much it. But, in terms of the shortening the season, I'd be okay with it. I definitely would. Especially if you'd have to start it a little bit later than April, of course. You know what would be perfect too, Dana? I think if you start the season late April, maybe early May, or maybe even started in May, to push it out to where you could have, May, June, July, August, and then September, and then you're done. So it kind of like goes away once football is in middle of full swing. But when it comes to the All-Star break and the All-Star game, yeah, it comes to the point where it's almost like the Pro Bowl, where nobody really cares. I mean,
right.
I'll watch maybe a couple innings of the All-Star game tonight, and then I'll be done with it. I'm not going to watch the full thing.
Right. And that's, I think that's where most people are Yeah, we'll watch the first, 3 innings or so, and then we're over it.
I think if they made it, if the players in the game made it more fun, because I remember one of my best memories of the All-Star game was when John Kruk went up to bat, and Roger Clemens was on the mound.
I remember this,
and Roger Clemens was just throwing heat and kind of throwing to John Kruk, and John Kruk just came to the point where he put his helmet on backwards and just kind of just stood there because he was kind of scared to be in there. And that's what I hope the All-Star break, the All-Star game would maybe be is more comedic and more fun. Just make it more fun, guys. Like the past games I've seen, it's too serious, and a lot of people just kind of get turned off because that's what we see every single day for regular baseball games. Is it's too serious. When you're at the All-Star break, make it fun. Like make the All-Star game more enjoyable, where it's, hey, you have those fun moments where the players are just kind of making fun of themselves, or you kind of put a point system of home runs or where it's hit. You know what I mean? If they made it more interactive and more fun, people would tune into it. But other than that, it's just becoming like the Pro Bowl where it's not needed. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Well, and here's the great thing about this is I really feel like at this point we are starting to like kind of turn the corner here on what we were originally slated to, which is great because I love, it's great when you have like the organic conversations that just kind of like spontaneously come through. If baseball shortened their season, how do you think that they can get more of the fan base back? And I know a lot of people will go, yeah, well, the last lockout is really what did it for me. And that's fair. I can understand that. That's whatever. That's your prerogative. That's how you viewed it. That's fine. But when you look at stuff like how they entered in the home run derby, and I'm not saying, you got to have like, you don't need to have a WWE show when it comes down to like baseball, but I feel like you've got to make it more entertaining. Are they too set in like the purest ways?
I think there's an argument with yes and no, because baseball is such a storied game where it's the oldest game in the U.S. It's started way before way before pro football, started way before hockey, started way before basketball. It's the old timeless game. And I know that they're trying to make ways of the game to make it faster with the pitch counts, and even they're trying to. There might be robot umpires in the next couple of years because the umping has been so bad lately, where you're trying to update the game where the game is almost kind of fallen way, like you said, kind of like the old ways. Right. To make the game more exciting. I don't know, man. I don't know how you can do that because of the way the game is right now. How do you make a game that, shorten it up to 7 innings like in Little League?
Right.
You know what I mean? It's kind of those things where it's a very good question because I don't have the answer to. I really don't. I think the biggest problem with people today with the attention spans that people have because of technology and phones and everything, and I think it's a lot of people are, well, the game's too long. Mm-hmm. Well, yes and no. The game can drag here from time to time, and I think a lot of people say that when they're not watching the game live. When I watch a game live, it goes by pretty quick. When you're on TV, you add in like commercial breaks and everything like that too. Interviews with players during the game. That's going to make it drag. That's what I think a lot of people don't get is when you see a game live, it is totally different from seeing it on TV.
Yeah.
So maybe during your TV broadcasts, maybe don't put so much filler in. You know what I mean?
Which makes it hard because
it does make it hard, yeah.
Because the networks have to make money,
right?
But are we really going to say that? Like, okay, let's compare this, and just for real quickly, real loosely, let's do a loose comparison with FIFA. When the World Cup comes on, you've got outside of an injury, you've got 2 commercial breaks. You've got halftime and you've got end of game, and that's it.
Right.
Timeout comes. There's no commercial break during a soccer game. Soccer is worldwide is obviously the most popular sport. Mm-hmm. I don't know how, but I don't know how you could do that with baseball because you've got the top of the inning, the bottom of the inning, the end of the inning. Like there's so many breaks in between where you got to have field changes and positional changes and players coming off the field and on the field, and that to me that makes it a little difficult to where you go do we really want to, and maybe that's where you cut and you let these guys that are on TV earn their paycheck. Let them, let the graphics team throw up graphics of, hey, this is how this first inning looked. We've got guys on Twitter that are already doing this kind of stuff. So why can't we have people that are actually getting paid to do this rather than fans do the same work?
Right. Yeah, it's a funny conundrum that Major League Baseball has when it comes to making the game more exciting. Which to me, I love the game. I play the game. It's exciting to me. But when it comes to the TV presentation itself,
Mhm.
it almost reminds me of the days when I used to watch the Braves games on TBS, where the TBS broadcasts were snoozers
Yes.
because it was all just commentating. It wasn't any kind of interactive stuff at all. And I I think if the television presentations were a little bit more interactive, maybe just maybe you'd get more viewers. You know what
I
I
think
mean?
that's why the Chicago Cubs are so popular when Harry Carey was commentating.
True.
Because he was an entertaining commentator. He had the look that was entertaining, he had the voice that was entertaining, and just his style was unique.
Hey, everybody, Harry Carey here.
Like my
If
uncle
you
and
was
I
made out of cheese, would you eat it? I know I would.
well, my uncle and I watched Cubs games when he used to pick me up after elementary school because my parents were working and he was retired. And he used to pick me up and he used to watch me until my parents got off work. They would pick me up. And every day after school, we would watch Cubs games. And he wasn't even a Cubs fan, but he liked Harry Carey. And I
Hey,
think
Cubs
well, I mean,
baseball
also they
brought
were
to you
always
by
bad.
Budweiser, the king of beers, on the WGN network. Hey, Cubs win. Cubs win.
So you also brought up an interesting point where you talk about the robo umps, right? So there's a Twitter account called Ump Scorecards, which
I've seen this. Yes.
which has 250,000 followers. So obviously they're doing something right? This was the last Rays game where they beat the Orioles, obviously 7-5, as you see on the screen. And this shows the impactful missed calls, 3 impactful missed calls. Called strike accuracy was 79%. 11 of 53 called strikes were true balls. I mean, if you look at all of these, obviously I pulled this one up because this is the most, relevant to us here in the Tampa area.
Mhm.
But if you're going through the Scorecard Twitter profile, that's all they post are these graphics from every single game. And you're sitting here and you're watching and you're going, well, damn, there's a lot of red on a lot of these scorecards.
See, Danny, I don't know if I'd want the idea of umps getting replaced by robots. And I say that because then you take out
Because you've seen iRobot.
no, not because of the whole fear of technology and no,
You're gonna turn on us
because if you take out umps of the game, that's another element you're taking out of when players argue balls and strikes.
Sure.
Like the whole like
You want to see the blow ups.
I want to see the blow up. That's what makes also the game exciting too, is when players get pissed off at umps and then they get thrown out. Like
Yep.
those kind of blow ups happen. That's also makes the game exciting. Like when you take that element out, then the game kind of drags too, because sometimes when you want the game to kind of have that exciting thing happen,
Mm-hmm.
well, a good old fashioned blow up to the umpire makes those games exciting, especially when a player gets thrown out or, is an ump going to stand in the way when a player gets hit by a ball and then he starts to charge the mound? Is a robot going to do that? Probably not.
I mean, it's metal, maybe. Could you imagine Rosie from the Jetsons behind the home plate?
That would be funny. You just knock it over. But no, I don't want the idea of that to happen, because that's another element of the game that you're taking out that's exciting, because I love to see when players get pissed off at umpires. Or
No,
maybe
I'm totally with you.
because I mean, if you see a player arguing at a robot, that's ridiculous. You know what I mean?
Right.
I want to see players get pissed off at umps.
You know what though? You know what would be very interesting?
Hmm.
If they put a camera inside the robot and they had that camera angle where you could see the guy screaming at the camera.
See, that would be cool.
I'd be totally for that.
That would be cool. Like just mount a GoPro inside, and then you see the view of the robot where a player is just yelling. See, I wish they would do that right now with umpires, where they have a camera, like how policemen have those body cams. Have a body cam on an umpire, and
I'd be totally for that.
That way you can see their periffs when the ball's coming in for balls and strikes, or when a player gets pissed off of the umpire, you can have that. You can see what they're yelling and see what they're saying to them.
Yeah, I mean, you could even put that on the top of their helmet.
Yeah. Hey, Major League Baseball, call me. I've got ideas.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Gotta love it. Sugar Shane, baby. Sugar Shane McClanahan. History making. He's the first pitcher in MLB history to enter the All-Star break with 10 plus wins and ERA under 1.75. Opponent batting average under 0.180. A whip
And
under 0.80.
Dusty Baker didn't know who the hell he was.
How hilarious is that? I mean, at least he was honest though.
Yeah, that's true. I'll give him that.
He's like, I've never seen the guy play.
I mean, Dusty Baker's old. I mean, but yeah, he admitted that he didn't know who the hell he was, which is fine. I mean, as long as you admit to it. Even Shane had a good laugh at the press conference too. Shane was right next to him. He's like, he was laughing his ass off. So there's some humor behind it.
Right. Justice, I appreciate you on Twitter. He said it is a great idea of putting the camera on the umpire.
See?
Speaking of which, I appreciate everybody that's tuned in today. We got our Twitter feed has been going up quite a bit today. So I appreciate you guys tuning in to Channelside in the morning, live on the Channelside Sports Network. I am Danny. That is Evan. We just been talking.
Comment in the comments. We'd love to hear from you.
Comment in the comments. That's right. Shout out Henry Yoho, Bolts by the Bay, just joined in. I mean, what else can we say about Shane McClanahan that we have not already said? Like, I think it hits differently when you see the numbers now, because we knew he was having a good season. And I'll be totally honest with you, when it comes to deep diving in stats and history and doing all that, I'm more of an NFL guy. I know exactly where I can go. I know exactly what to look for. And I know the baseball, not so much.
Is he the greatest left-handed pitcher the Rays have had? Or is it too early for that? Because we've had the David Prices of the world, Blake Snell, and now we have Sugar Shane.
If he's not, he's trending in the right direction. If he's not already there,
he is.
I can tell you that, he makes a very solid case already, because he's the first pitcher in Major League history, which is, as you stated earlier, the oldest game in all of sports. That's pretty impressive.
I think with the rotation that they have right now, the Rays, I mean, it's almost like they're one pitcher away from having that dominant rotation.
Right.
Because right now it's Shane. I mean, Corey Kluber's had a pretty good season so far, and then Jeffrey Springs. But then you need one more guy. Luis Patino is back, but
should they try to make a trade to get that death row of pitchers?
I think what's going to happen at the trade deadline is you're not. Listen, I know I want them to get Juan Soto. That's probably just a pipe dream where it's probably not going to happen.
It should happen.
It should happen, but it's not. I would rather make them go. I'd rather have them go out and get pieces where they matter. Make the small moves. That's what I'd rather see. Would I rather see them go out and get Juan Soto? Of course, everybody would. Every Rays fan would want that to happen. But to be more strategic and to make that postseason run where you're going to go deep into the playoffs and possibly the World Series, I'd rather go out and see them make little small moves to bolster up that rotation.
Right.
Get another starting pitcher in there. That's going to help out the rotation. Get another power bat that's going to help out the roster, the batting lineup. So I would rather see them do that instead of making them go out and make a gargantuan move to get Juan Soto, where we talked about this yesterday, where you would have to give up the farm to get a player of that caliber. I would rather see other teams do that and fail than the Rays do that. Because if you have a team like the Yankees or the Mets or the Padres or the Dodgers, those four teams which are in talks that are the top four that could probably land him, I would rather have them make that all-in chip move and then fall flat on their face. Where the Rays, they make their couple of moves and then they go on and win the World Series. That's what I'd rather see.
This season? Win the World Series this season? Or do you think they're...
This season.
Are they too banged up to win the World Series this season?
No, because if you're 11 games over 500 right now and you have I think you're a game and a half above the Mariners in the wild card race.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty damn good for a team that's got the most players on the IL right now.
Sure.
So And you got to look at it this way. After the break, you're probably going to get some of those guys back too as well. And if you make a few moves at the trade deadline, then you're probably in good position to make a good run for it. So do I think they can make a World Series run? Yeah, hell yeah. I mean, as of right now, it'd be tough because of all the guys that they have on the injury list.
Does Shane McClanahan continue rolling
Yes.
the way that he is?
Yes. That's why you have him pitch one pitch and then he's yanked out of the All-Star break.
So
just one pitch. That's it, and then you yank him.
So let's do this then. Let's say, okay, knowing what we know about the first half of the season for Shane McClanahan, if he continues the same trend, where does this rank amongst seasons for pitchers?
Probably one of the best. I mean, he's definitely right now, I think, the front runner for the Cy Young.
It's got to be.
Over Verlander. I know Verlander's up there too, but Shane's season so far has been nothing short of miraculous and historical. So I'd rank him at number one.
How crazy is it that Justin Verlander is still up there?
That's crazy too, man. And he's had injuries and surgeries and stuff. I mean, Verlander is
he's old.
He's an old, yeah, but he's pitching like a young guy.
Right, but to me that's what's crazy. Let me see here. So Shane McClanahan is currently the favorite to win the Cy Young.
Yeah.
Who is this from? I don't know who it's from. They're not even sourced. Great. Good job, Fansided. Shane McClanahan is favored to win the Cy Young. Justin Verlander is second, and then Ohtani is third. And he's a distant third. And this was updated this morning. Shane McClanahan is plus 205. Justin Verlander is plus 260, and Ohtani is plus 700.
If Ohtani was more of a regular pitcher, then I could see him more in the mix. But since he's not,
right,
he's got to be an all-time pitcher instead of being a split,
right.
DH.
I'm with you.
But right now, Shane's running away with it now. I mean, if the season ended, of course he'd be the Cy Young.
Oh, of course, yeah, because he's got the best. I mean, if he stays the trend, it's definitely got to be one of the best seasons a pitcher has ever had in the major leagues.
I can totally agree on that. I'm not a stats guy, but the way he's just been rolling through lineups and just his wicked, crazy stuff that he throws is just he makes batters look stupid.
Does it have more of an impact? If he continues the season that has one of the best seasons of all time, does it have more of an impact if the Rays win the World Series versus if they do not win the World Series? Because a lot of sports that has an impact. Does that have the same impact in baseball? If he has all of these great records and these great stats and the Rays come up short, does that hurt his resume from this season?
I don't think it does because the playoffs are really considered kind of a separate thing when it comes to the pitching performances. Mm-hmm. Now, of course, when you get into the playoffs, you do want to see your Cy Younger, your ace,
sure,
like be that ace in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
And we've seen before where pitchers, coast through the season, have a great season, and then when they get to the playoffs, they just fall flat in their face. We've seen that before. It's happened. And I think with him having that playoff, like last year, in the last year's playoffs where he didn't do so well, and we saw that tantrum in the back where he just destroyed, the dugout.
Mm-hmm.
I think having that chip on his shoulder where, coming into this season, I think he wanted to make that wrong right, where he's going to have a great season. And if they do get into the playoffs, like, I'm going to show everybody that I'm going to be the best pitcher in baseball. So if they make the playoffs, if they ultimately get in there, he's going to be like, this is my time to shine. And I hopefully that the performance that he had last year does not come back again this year. I think we see a different pitcher than this year than we have last year.
For sure, we definitely have. I just thought that came across my mind is that if they don't, and I know there's a lot of variables.
Well, you got to look at it this too, Danny, because we've seen pitchers that have good seasons. They are in the contention for the Cy Young, but their team as a whole don't make the playoffs.
Right.
So does that affect their season overall? It doesn't. It doesn't, Because if a team is sub 500, but they have a pitcher that's a number one guy in the top conversation throughout the year, but their team doesn't make the playoffs, does that affect them in the end? Because remember, the Cy Young is an individual award instead of a team award.
Right.
So I think it has to me, where the Rays are at and where he's at, I mean, it kind of does a little bit because, okay, he had a great season. He's probably going to win the Cy Young, but when he gets to the playoffs, he is dog shit. Yeah, I think a little bit. Yeah.
And I guess the parallel that I'm going to try to draw is like you look at Aaron Rodgers, right? He wins 4 MVPs, falls flat on his face every playoff. He has nothing to show for it. So like when he wins an MVP, to me, obviously, you know, like I'm a football fan at the end of the day, Bucks fan, Lions fan, and the great players should always be there. Like I never wish Aaron Rodgers to be injured. I always want to see Aaron Rodgers at the top of his game when he plays my team. But when you win all of these regular season awards and you've got nothing to show for it beyond that, I think that's different. And maybe, you know,
it's almost like winning 100. It's almost like winning 100 games and
right
managerial award. No, but no, I can agree with you upon that. It's like, you know, is the MVP award warranted if you don't do well in the playoffs too?
You remember Dirk Nowitzki won the MVP the same year they got swept in the first round by the Golden State Warriors.
But I think when you look at it, those since it's a regular season award, it doesn't really affect that regular season. Like when the playoffs happen and, you know, players show up in a different way, it's totally different. But I think for baseball, it's a lot different. It's a lot different too, because when a pitcher is rolling and then gets into the playoffs and just falls flat, it's like, okay, well, what happened? You know, what happened?
Right.
I mean, is it playoff jitters? Is it something else? So I look at playoffs and regular season that just kind of coincide together when it comes to a player's performance, especially a pitcher.
We're gonna end on this note. Do you think that the pitcher is the most important position in all of sports?
All of sports or all of baseball?
All of sports.
No, the quarterback is.
You think?
I would go quarterback 1, pitcher 2.
Okay.
Because you can replace a pitcher. Like, let's just say, hey, Shane doesn't do well. He's got a bad first 3 innings with the Rays for one of the games, and they're down by a couple of runs. You bring in another pitcher that's totally going to shut down the other team's lineup, and then all of a sudden, you know, your team starts to chip away at that lead that the other team had. As in a quarterback, on the other hand, if Tom Brady doesn't do well throughout the whole game, that's going to affect the team as a whole. You can't really replace a Tom Brady in the second quarter with Kyle Trask or Blaine Gabbert. It's not going to be the same way. So
I don't know. According to a lot of these Gators fans, Kyle Trask is just as good as Tom Brady is, my man. Good Lord. But the reason I asked that is because, in my opinion, a pitcher can significantly affect the outcome. Whereas a quarterback can turn around, he can hand off the ball to the running back. The running back can take over the game. When you're pitching and you're on the mound, if you're having a fantastic game, if you're pitching lights out and your change-ups are moving and everything is happening, right? You don't need the fielding team behind you.
Yeah, that's true. And yeah, because if at the end of the game, if you're up by 1 run and your closer comes in and messes up and blows a save, yeah, man, it's a conundrum. It's a good question.
You know what I think it needs? I think it needs a poll, and I think we're gonna throw that up there on the old Channelside Sports Twitter. Watch out for the free Madden giveaway contest. We're doing it. We're doing it big.
Despite my opinions on the game, yes, we were gonna do a.
I'm excited. You know what though? This is going to be the first time. I think the last Madden that I bought was. Hold on, I got to pull the graphic back up here because I don't even remember. The last Madden that I bought was. Jesus. 17 with Gronk on the cover.
Oh.
That was the last one that I bought, which was a long time ago.
That is a long time.
Actually. Way longer than. You know what? I go in spurts, though, because I went from Madden every year, and then I was like, okay, I'm getting a little bored with it because I spend way too much time on it. Like, do you remember when Madden had the GM mode where you could like affect the ticket sale prices and the concession stand prices? Like, I was that guy. I was like straight like roller coaster tycooning all of my concessions.
You took it way too seriously then.
100%. I was a legitimate couch GM. Legitimate couch GM. I don't know. But I'm excited to get it this year, and strictly because John Madden is on the cover. And this is something that I wanted to ask you with, and we'll wrap up with this. When you see a video game cover, and we'll just say sports, right? Because otherwise we're going to go into a rabbit hole, and we'll be doing this till 1 o'clock today. When you see a sports cover, does the cover and or the cover athlete affect your mindset to buy the game at all?
No, because I'm not buying for the cover. I'm buying for the quality of the game. So no.
Which makes and that's fair. I would say that typically for me that would be the case. However, I just spent an hour talking about I want to buy the Madden game because John Madden's on there.
Well, that's the nostalgia factor because John Madden is such an iconic person. So,
and that, I guess that's fair.
Yeah,
I can deal with that.
John Madden's the exception.
Football,
yeah. Football, and you throw it in there, boom.
I really hope that they have John Madden old clips in this game. We'll see. That's going to wrap it up for us today. Evan will be off tomorrow, so it'll just be me and my ugly mug. But we're going to have a lot of fun tomorrow. I've got some stuff lined up tomorrow. I don't have to worry about debate topics. I just have to worry about ranting topics. And that's all I got to do. This is Channelside in the morning, live from the Channelside Sports Network. Thank you to everybody who tuned in today. And the comments and the retweets and the likes. We appreciate that. We appreciate every single bit of it. And
we appreciate you.
That's almost, I can't do the heart very well. Yeah. No, I can't do that. Yeah, that was really good at the end there when you kind of did like those squeeze. I liked it. There you go.
There you go.
I feel like that should be your new Twitter profile picture.
Yeah, it's never gonna happen.
I'm gonna hack your Twitter account and make that happen. Anyway, guys, we will be back. Do it all over again tomorrow. I am Danny. That is Evan. This is Channelside in the morning on the Channelside Sports Network. Look us up on all the social media platforms, Channelside Sports Network. Hit that subscribe button if you're on YouTube and a little bell because we all forget everything.
Ding.